That photo was taken when we were last together at Windsor, and I don't know how fast I was running towards the camera when that photo was taken, but it is hideous. So I think it also appears on my LinkedIn as well. So I need to do something about that because it's horrible. As my mother would say, you've put a bit of timber on. But there you go. So, what do you think of when you hear the word transformation? What's in your mind? Yeah. Change. Okay.
Yeah.
Just change? As in like changing trains on a journey, or?
Big change. Progress.
Big change.
Disruption.
Okay. Yeah. So Simon Sinek talks about leadership, and he talks about leaders step into the unknown and make it safe for everybody else to follow. You guys may have read some of that stuff. I think in transformation we have to understand just how terrifying that is for the humans that are involved in it, because they don't believe us when we say it's going to be better. They think it's going to be worse. They think there's going to be fewer of them, and they think they're going to have to learn a load of stuff that they find really difficult. No matter how many times you tell them it's going to be better, what they hear is, yeah, you're being paid to say that. It's going to be terrible because this is what happened to my mate down the road, and I know it's going to be terrible. So what I think about when I think about transformation is I think about first who. So I think about who do I want to transform. Not what do I want to achieve with transformation, but who. So if any of you have read the Good to Great stuff, I'll refer to that a couple of times through this. Who's on the bus? You need to think about that first, okay? If you start thinking about what your technical solution is before you think about the human beings who are going to use it, I guarantee you'll fail. It'll just be, the only thing we're talking about is the magnitude of the failure, the size of the lack of adoption of whatever you put in. That's all we're talking about, and you need to just be really open about that. And you then need to think about a culture of discipline, which is something else that Jim Collins talks about in that book. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about those things. So, first who? Do you know who needs to change the way they work? And by that I don't mean the count of the people on an organisation chart, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean the names of the key contacts in the business or who will champion this change for you. That's not what we're talking about. It's not about finding a user group. It's not about identifying the champions. That won't work. It doesn't mean having great governance and ensuring that you've got all your reps in place from each business area and all of that stuff that project managers do. That's not what I mean. It doesn't mean having a great comms and engagement work stream that write really good presentations and updates. That's not what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? Now, forget the person, because that could be an 18-year-old who's just joined the organisation. But that is what will transform. Why does that person need 3 pens? Or the sorts of questions that you need to be asking. Why do they need a file from 1997 by their desk? Because I'm assuming that that person's not an idiot. I'm assuming they've surrounded themselves with the things they need to get the job done. And if you don't understand that, you'll fail in whatever solution you try and give them. And what the vision might be, well, we're going paperless. Imagine how terrifying that is for that person. Just, where will I find all my stuff? You have to be in their shoes and you have to understand that. And the psyche that drives them to work like that. Now, some offices are not like that. The office I work in is like that. So I work in the Global R&D Centre for WBA, which is the place where they make all the number 7 skin products. So I have 73 PhD dermatology skin scientists who make amazing stuff in jars, in labs with lab coats on every day. And they think that data is printing off something from a spreadsheet, taking it in the lab, writing on it with a pen, and then scanning it back into the system. They think they've done a great job. They think they're being digital when they do that. But they have these amazing ways of working when they're in the lab. So they understand science. They understand what we're trying to achieve, but in a digital context, they have no clue how to operate. It's not about intelligence. These are smart as hell, these people. They just don't know how to do it. And so if we're going to transform a business, you have to be connected at that level in order to make a difference to these people. A culture of discipline. We've heard lots of people talk about culture. There was a few references to culture in a couple of the keynotes earlier. And I think actually what they meant was the climate, not the culture. And I think transformation, digital transformation, is about being in a digital climate, but it doesn't change the culture. If your boss bullies you, they'll bully you digitally. Okay? If your co-workers stab you in the back instead of stabbing you in the belly, they'll do that digitally. That's the culture, okay? What we're doing in digital transformation often is just changing the climate and expecting that will change the culture. And the two are not necessarily connected. We have to make that connection. We have to do that ourselves. And that's the human to human process. We have to have those conversations. Because I think a lot of people confuse climate and culture. So, what's the culture you have? What's the culture you need? Have you answered those questions? Do you know? Do you know what you have? So a company's culture is its basic personality. That's one of the definitions that's used. And that sounds nice and straightforward, but it's actually really complex because entities survive and evolve over time. And it's usually about gradual shifts in leadership. Oh, the old guy used to do this. The CIO used to do that. My CEO likes this. These are subtle changes in the culture of the organization that are not written down anywhere. Okay? You might want to know whether you work for an organization that when you book a long-haul flight, there's a whole team of people that check whether you've booked the cheapest flight or not. That's a cultural thing. But if you don't understand that, you don't understand how the human beings are interacting. So the culture is a self-sustaining pattern of behavior that determines how things are done. How much of that sounds like it's digital? None of it.
Sorry,
feel free to ask the question.
There you go. Do you think future state is no? So I worry about what is the culture you need.
Absolutely.
Because actually I don't really, the end state is unknown.
That's kind of a Radio 4 link to my next slide. That's fantastic.
Alistair stroke Melvin
absolutely. That's never been said before, right? So the truth is, you don't know what culture you need, and in your role, you're probably not the person that I'd ask. And one of the things I would definitely say, one of the watch-outs I would say is, people talk about using the hierarchy to help them make a change. The hierarchy is the single worst way to solve a problem that a business has, other than the problem of writing down the job that everybody does. It's the only thing that helps you sort that out is a hierarchy. The hierarchy doesn't help you solve anything else. It gets in the way when you communicate, it gets in the way when you deliver decisions, it gets in the way when you deliver change. It's not the right way to do it. If you started from a blank piece of paper, you'd never build a hierarchy to solve change problems. So why do people think line-led change, oh, I need an exec sponsor? They're the last people you need. You need them to give you the air cover when you run out of money. That's all you need. You don't need them for anything else. Their opinion is meaningless in terms of transforming the individuals in the workforce. They don't know. And I'm not making that up. I know they don't know. So Harvard Business Review did a survey across the globe. 92% of executives say that organizational redesign is a critical priority. Oh, it's massive. Massively important to me. 86% of executives say culture is a very important issue. 28% reported that they actually understood their organizational culture, and 12% say that their company is driving the right culture. Why are we asking them when we're making a change? Really? Why are they the people that will help us? You need to ask yourself that. Have you got the connection with the individuals around the business who can make a difference on a day-by-day basis? And a lot of people worry about digital transformation. They think that they need to go to the group of people who are the Luddites, the group of people who won't adopt early. I go to the people who are telling me I'm doing it too slow. They're the people I need, because they're the infectious people. They're the people who will contaminate everybody's analog thinking with digital ideas. They're the people who will agitate in meetings for, why are we doing it this way? Why aren't we doing it that way? Why are we having a meeting to update each other? Why aren't we doing the work in the meeting? They're the sort of people you need to get at, and they're rarely the sort of people that would answer that, because they know what the culture's like. Does that help answer your question? So imagine freedom along one axis, compliance on another axis. I'm going to walk you through some of the cultures that you'll typically find in an organisation. Very often when I work with companies, I find that this is a predominant culture. It's bureaucratic, very low levels of empowerment. They're risk blind. They don't comply with their processes, and they don't understand the risks that that's creating for them. They don't understand the challenges that that brings to them. And the culture could probably be best described as allies and enemies. It's clans, it's tribal stuff. This team doesn't talk to that team. These people don't work well with that. This person doesn't like that person. So this is a very low freedom, low compliance. And by compliance, I mean compliance with what we're trying to achieve. I don't mean compliance with a capital C, although that's got a capital C on it. You'll then get this, which is high freedom and low compliance. Quite common in startup businesses. Actually, that is the culture where I work now. And nobody would describe WBA as a startup. But they have that kind of mentality because they're 4 years old as a business. Boots is 125 years old. Walgreens is 70 years old. But as a company, they're 4 or 5 years old, and they behave like a startup, which means it's very random where I work. Strategy changes every 20 minutes. People think strategy is something that you can we'll have a 2019 strategy, and then a 2020 strategy, and then a second half of 2020 strategy, and then a strategic intervention at the end of 2020, and I'm like, do you guys even understand what the word strategy means? But it's very random. It's very high risk. And there are aliens and earthlings. It's that type of conversation. I just do not get what they are talking about. Who is this guy? What is she on about? I don't see any of that. It's that type of disconnect. And the sorts of arguments that I end up being involved in, they're playground fights. And you see emails that copy everybody in up the organisation. It shoots up the organisation, straight across the top, straight back down. Immediately. People put their boss on copy because my dad can fight your dad. It's a playground fight. That's a culture you need to watch out for. And you will find that. If you see that, then we'll talk about what you need to try and do. So the next culture you'll get is high compliance, low freedom. Hierarchy, central control, low risk. This is monarchs and servants. Okay? That's what this is all about. This is rank. And all that matters is rank. I went in one organisation, I walked in on my first day, I just got my ID badge, and I went up to the first person I met and said, I've had a bit of a long journey, show me where the loo is. And they went, what grade are you? And I'm like, whoa, wait, there's toilets based on grade, and she was like, no, it'd be helpful to know what grade you are, so I know how to have a conversation. I'm like, I'm going to piss myself. Is that the conversation you want us to have? I'm literally about to piss myself. I'm a 50-year-old bloke. When I say I need the loo, I need the loo. I can't concentrate on anything else. I've got to go to the toilet. Show me where the loo is. But she didn't know how to deal with it because that was the culture. You'll hear these things. They need to be a trigger in your brain to think, okay, that's the culture. If people talk about, oh, I've been empowered, it's one of these cultures. Okay? Oh, I've just been empowered to do this. No, you haven't. You've been given some money and been told by your nan to go to the off licence and fetch her a packet of fags. That's what you've been told to do. Okay? You've not been empowered. The penalties and punishments are what matter in that organisation, okay? And people do not do things because they are scared of the punishments. It's a bit like Game of Thrones, which blew my mind this week. If any of you have been watching it, I'm like, I don't really know what to do. Now, anyway, I won't. So, we're trying to get to this top right-hand corner when we do digital transformation. This is where we're trying to get to. Hedgehogs, and we'll talk about hedgehog concept. If those of you who've not read Good to Great, we'll talk about that in a second. This is being disciplined. It's understanding risk and risk management. It's about teams and tasks, and it's about problem solving. So if you're here, to get to here, you either need to dial up the freedom or dial up the compliance. You understand how you sort of move through. What we need to do is head for that. Because without that culture, digital transformation won't work. Because digital tools are all about collaboration, they're all about risk management, they're all about problem solving, they're all about sharing, they're all about understanding what we're facing together. If you don't have that culture and you're not disciplined enough to use it and follow through on it, you're going to fail if your culture stays like this. Does that make sense? So if you are going to have a conversation with the CEOs, have a conversation with them about what you see and where you want to get to. Have that conversation with them first. And then talk about digital transformation in the context of being an enabler to do that. And then they'll get it. And then they'll give you the air cover when you run out of money, because you will. Because everywhere I've been, we've run out of money. And then we've had to make some horrible compromises. But it's always been in the sense of, this is where we're trying to go, so we're happy. So, the Good to Great. This is just a little bit of a lesson from history. Good to Great, Isaiah Berlin. If you don't know about this guy, look him up. Very interesting bloke, double agent in the First World War, done all sorts of things. He came up with this saying that organisations are either foxes or hedgehogs. Foxes have multiple goals, dash from thing to thing, never reflecting on the true meaning of their existence. Hedgehogs have a single overarching goal. I mean, the hedgehog's so beautifully designed, it's defended from the back, so it can carry on going forward. That's how nature's worked it out. They survive and advance. Great organisations all over time turn from being foxes, opportunistic, where can we go, into being hedgehogs and being brilliant at doing one thing. They find that one thing and they're amazing at doing it. What happened was Jim Collins then took that thinking and put it into his Good to Great book. And in Good to Great, this is the visual that I like because it summarises the elements of Good to Great. And you'll see I used a couple of them. First two, then what, and a culture of discipline. Technology accelerators are on the end. And they're there for a reason. Because organisations need to understand how skilled are our leaders. Have we got the right people on the bus? Are we being open and honest, confronting the facts? That I've done quite a bit. If those of you have seen my profile, I've done quite a bit of work with high-performing sports teams. And have anybody read James Kerr's book on legacy? He spent some time with the All Blacks. So the All Blacks have this expression of stab me in the belly, don't stab me in the back. So you can say what you like to an All Black about the game they've played, but you do it to their face. It's all part of that confronting the brutal facts. Have the hedgehog concept, find out what it is that you can be great at, you can get paid for and that you love doing. That bit in the middle, the Japanese call it ikigai, that sweet spot of those things. Do that, be disciplined about it, and then your technology accelerators will push you forward. Any questions? I'm happy to take literally any questions, any tips, anything you violently disagree with, that's fine, because I'm a behavioural psychologist, so we can have a conversation about it. I like that.
I've got one.
Yeah.
I'll stand up, sorry. Does it change the way you approach trying to do something?
Yeah, fundamentally.
Investing more before you do some.
It's definitely a go slow to go faster. So I've spent probably 9 or 10 months understanding what the culture's like before I'm prepared to press the button on anything that we're trying to do. And my bosses are getting very twitchy about that.
That's what I was.
So they are like, what is this guy doing? We've been paying him for nearly a year and I don't even have a business case yet. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I don't know what we have. And until I know what we have, I don't know what the solution is. So I'm not going to put together a business case to get there because I don't know what we have. So you're absolutely right. And you need the air cover from them. Somebody needs to understand what you're trying to do if you're going to transform the people first and then the business. Because there's a nice shiny deliverable you could stick a flag in and say, I did that, if you go the other way.
And I'm worried on your behalf for steering that path of... Are you doing the sort of, trust me, I've done this before card, or are you doing...
A little bit.
Are you doing any sort of early sort of plays that show you are making some progress?
So I do a lot of hacks.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do a lot of hacks. We launched a face cream in the US, and everybody in the US said it was fantastic. All the predominantly women who used it said they thought it was amazing. We launched it in the UK, and all the women are saying it stings. Now in the US, if you launch a face cream and it doesn't sting, they'll say it doesn't work. Over here, if it stings, they'll say it doesn't work. So that's a bit of a dilemma. So the feedback was, it's a terrible product, we can't launch that over here. It wasn't a terrible product, it was just a formulation that needed changing. So what I did was we hacked a digital twin and said, we've got this physical product here, what do we know about it in a digital space? Got all the social media stuff, scraped all that and said, this is now what we know about it. We don't just know this, it's selling like crazy in Walgreens. We know this. We got some challenges with the formulation and the packaging and that kind of stuff. So we did a hack. I got some guys from Microsoft in a room and some people who understand data science, and I don't, and as you can tell from how I'm speaking about it, because I'm probably using the wrong terms. And what we came up with was, here's a much more holistic picture. It's not repeatable because it cost us an absolute fortune to do all that stuff, but we proved the point, and then they go, okay, I get it, I understand. So you have to give them, you need to bring some back to the table for them to understand and give you the time. But the first thing I did was try and get them involved in the culture. Ask them what they saw, gave them some examples. And if they buy into that cultural journey, they will give you a bit more time.
Any other?
On your...
Okay. Yes, indeed.
So, with the people that are, I'm not going to say champions, but the people that are saying you're not doing it quick enough, and I want more of the basics and the next steps. And obviously you've got those people that are like, don't know what that is, nothing to do with me. I worry that, I do agree with the people that will be the guys going out and championing what you're doing and how it's made their lives better in the organisation. But I worry about the people that are almost sort of left behind and diluting things negatively for those people that are going out and saying, what do you mean you're not using Office 365? This is really cool and I've been using it for weeks and this is what it's done.
Do you worry about them from a personal perspective? Or are you worrying about them from a business perspective?
I worry about from a business perspective that they're diluting the really good messages that are coming out from those guys saying, I'm streets ahead and I'm using this and they're delivering these features to me, and they're still not going quick enough. And then you've got these little...
So it depends where they are in the culture, doesn't it? If they're a monarch and you've got a monarch and servant culture, you've got a problem. Because if one of your this is terrible people are one of the kings, you're in real trouble. If they're one of the servants, frankly, it doesn't matter. And you have to understand where they are, because it's not about ignoring their voice. Remember, this is who first. Who's on this cultural transformation journey first? Work that out.
I just want to go and shoot the gremlins.
Yeah, that's probably... we've probably all been one of those gremlins at some point in our life. There's just that... If I look back, I was a naysayer on some stuff. I wasn't smart enough to see what was coming. I get that. So I understand...
I don't want to forget about them, but equally I don't want to spend oodles amount of time...
Don't spend any of your time with them.
Accentuate the
Don't let the people who are pushing spend time with them. It's not your job to convert their mindset. That's not what you're there to do. You're there to deliver the transformation. So the elastic band, they've got tension pulling us back and tension pulling us forward. Stretch it this way. Stretch that. That's your job. You're going to end up with something here otherwise.
Yeah, my question was quite similar. So what do you do when someone is not known or is really keen to transferring the old way of doing things into a new platform and is not ready to jump on board?
Okay, so is that about their knowledge transfer?
Historical knowledge
Okay, get them to write it down. And then,
One of them, yeah, I would say.
yeah, just get them to write it down. That's good. Tell me your life story. Do a day in the life of. Write everything down that you do. Let's make a big fuss about all the stuff you do and then go, great, thanks very much. And then you can go and add it. Yeah? You're going to be tactical about this, right? This is not a battle you want to win. You don't want to take them on person by person. This is not a coffee morning, come and share. It ain't going to work. Because all they're going to do is turn up with the mindset of, you're going to tell me the same stuff again and again, and I didn't believe you the first time. So let somebody else do that and deal with what you can control. It's one of those, is it in your boat? Does it make the boat go faster? If it's not in your boat, don't deal with it.
On your 2x2 matrix. that you
Yes.
went through, do you find that there's a...
It's very simplistic, by the way, that. It's just helpful, I think. But
Yep, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you find that there is a preferred path? Does it depend absolutely on the company?
I think it depends on where you are in that culture, because you'll understand one of those cultures better than the others. So if you're in a fairly command and control culture, you'll understand that, and you can probably get things done. So you can probably move yourselves up the discipline line easier than you can move yourself across the freedom line, because that's dishing out responsibility to other people. So it kind of depends where you are as to the route you want to take. Okay. I mean, if you're in that top right-hand corner, brilliant. But you also got a lot of work looking back and going, where is everybody? It's just me.
How many people realistically are there?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of depends. The route kind of depends on how you think you could best influence that cultural change. How could you move through it? And that's going to be, and it is very simplistic. But I'm sure when I was going through it, you've seen those cultures, you've worked in those cultures. It just gives you a bit of a map. And there's, just like there are probably 2 million personality types, there's probably 2 million corporate cultures. It's just something. It's a tool that helps you kind of understand. Okay, predominantly, I think I'm here. And if I want to get there, I've either got to give more freedom or drive more compliance, which is it I want to do.